بين الحرمين حرمين مقام حسين حرمين مقام أبا الفضل بين الحرمين حرمين مقام حسين حرمين مقام أبا الفضل مجدود حسين مجدود أبا الفضل مجدود حسين مجدود أبا الفضل
شفا بگیره.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا. وأعوذ به من شر نفسي إن النفس لأمارة بالسوء إلا ما رحم ربي. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق وخاتم الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين سيدنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المطهرين المكرمين. السلام عليك سيدي ومولاي يا أبا عبد الله، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت، وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. صلوات. قال الله العظيم في كتابه الكريم وهو أحسن القائلين وأصدق الصادقين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والذين يقولون ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the purification of the souls, the enlightenment of the hearts, for the acceptance of the deeds, and for the hastening of the reappearance of the awaited Saviour, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, enlighten your souls, purify your hearts, with the recitation of salawat upon Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Respected elders, sisters and brothers, Salamun Alaikum wa Rahmatullahi Ta'ala wa Barakatuh. This is a phenomenon that occurs within marital relationships, and it is indeed quite common amongst human behavior. It may give rise to negative relationships and a breakdown in marriages, causing health problems and sometimes separation and divorce. The methods and the way it is managed are crucial for you and I to lead happy, sustainable and successful marriages. Conflicts in marriage are trends and behaviors exhibited by human beings that sometimes can result in people being upset, affecting their health through stress, worry, anxiety, and in some occasions, unfortunately, leads to verbal or physical abuse. It is without a shadow of a doubt an area that affects the life of each and every human being, because conflicts don't only occur in marriages. You and I know that in our day-to-day lives we interact with others, whether it's our family members, whether it's our colleagues or friends, whether it's the society in general. We cannot live in a conflict-free environment. In the idea that human beings generally may disagree with each other, and it's the way that they disagree with each other, unfortunately, sometimes dictates how they lead their lives and whether they can communicate effectively. Today, psychologists and experts have come forward to describe how human beings engage in different mechanisms, in different strategies and styles when it comes to conflict management. Because without a shadow of a doubt, you and I live in a world where there is much tension. Many a times there are differing opinions. There are conflicting ways that we look at certain things. Yet, psychologists have come forward and said there are 4 awful truths about conflicts, whether they are in marriage or outside marriage. Number 1, conflicts are unavoidable, meaning that in some occasions we find couples coming forward, speaking to therapists, counselors, ulama, and expressing concern because they're having too many arguments. They say this is a sign that our marriage is breaking apart. Conflicts are indeed unavoidable, number 1. Number 2, they say, from studies, it shows that conflicts result in risks being taken and costs for the human being. But importantly, number 3, the damage caused by the lack of understanding conflicts and dealing with them is greater than the conflict itself. And sometimes, number 4, this damage is irreversible. Yes? That's why when we come to the world of marriage, you will recognize that some of our youth have seen their parents fight, have seen their parents argue, have seen their parents enter into different conflicts throughout their lives, and may have obtained an idea which is negative regarding marriage, or perhaps are afraid of marriage. There are others, for example, who cite incidents. They say when we hear stories about marriage, it is something which worries us. For example, it is said that once a couple were in a hotel. They were arguing with each other to the extent that the husband calls the hotel reception. He says, "Excuse me, I am arguing with my wife and she has threatened to throw herself from the window." The person at the reception says, "Excuse me, sir, this is a personal issue. Why are you getting us involved?" The person says, "You haven't understood. The window is not opening. It's a maintenance issue." There was once a couple who had arguments together in a holiday, in a vacation, until unfortunately the wife was caught stealing. She was elderly and he was also. When they were caught stealing, they were taken to the court. At court, the judge asked the wife, "What have you stolen?" She said, "A can of peaches from the supermarket." He says, "How many peaches did it have?" She says, 6. He said, "You are sentenced to 6 days in prison." At that moment, the husband stands up, says, "Your Honor, she also stole a can of peas as well." Yes? One of the people said, "You know, I was having too much conflict and arguments and fighting with my wife. Therefore, I decided to use my doctor." He has a friend who is a doctor, who happens to be the family general practitioner. He went to him and said, "I will send you my wife. You need to tell her to change and treat me well, otherwise I will die." So he convinced his wife to go and see his doctor, because he said, "The doctor wants to tell you something." She went to see the doctor. The doctor says to her, "Your husband has only 3 months to live. If you do not change the way you speak to him, if you do not respect him, if you do not stop fighting with him, he will die in 3 months." She came out of the room. He is happy. He says to her, "What did the doctor say?" what is going to happen? She smiled. She says, you'll die in 3 months. Yes? In the idea that sometimes people, when it comes to conflicts, they have really misunderstood different strategies, different ways to deal with them, because sadly, it has resulted in much tension. When we look in society and in our communities, some people ask the question, why do I need to know about this subject? Why is it critical in my life? No doubt you find it across different areas. If I can sort out conflict in my marital life, it will help me when I deal with many people. Because I tell you, in communities, we have people who are experts in causing conflict. They are always trying to create tension, disagreement or dissension between people. I remember an incident. Once there was a community that they were performing Salatul Jama'ah. And the Imam was leading the Salah. When he finished the Salah, there was a man who came to him and said to him, Maulana Sahib, your Salah is batil. So the Shaykh said to him, why? He says to him, when you did sajda, your nose was not touching the ground. The Shaykh smiles and says, can I ask you a question? He says, yes. He says, during this process, where was your nose? Meaning that if you were praying behind me, you will not notice. You are trying to find a problem, to create a conflict, to create division within the community. Yes? That is why when you and I speak about marriage and the institution that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made sacred, it is of the utmost importance that we understand. Just like how many other things that we learn and train, many people think that they enter a marital relationship, that they've got it all. Meaning what? Meaning that do we also not need to learn some important tools? Do we also not need to train our youngsters and ourselves? Because I tell you, if you think that you've been married 40 years and you know it all, this is one of the problems. Marriage is a lifelong journey where we continuously learn. Those who are married, those who are about to get married, those who have sons or daughters whom they wish to get married, continuous understanding of effective methodologies to strengthen marital relationship is key. Indeed, to learn strategies, to understand how to maneuver in life difficult circumstances is very, very important. And that's why I would like to discuss the subject of conflicts in marriage and answer the following questions. Number one, which dua in the Quran was amongst the most favorite of Amir al-Mu'mineen and it's related to marriage and conflicts? Number two, what are the main causes of conflicts in marriage? Why do they happen in the first place? Number three, what are the strategies that you and I can learn practically in order to enhance our understanding of dealing with marriages, which essentially means that we can fight right in a marital relationship? Number four, when married couples have arguments and conflicts, should they consult their parents or should they not? And number five, how do we learn from the 10th of Muharram examples of families that truly demonstrated wonderful marital relationship, produced exceptional children, and would learn from the master himself, Sayyid al-Shuhada, Aba Abdullah Al-Hussain, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. The Holy Quran in chapter 25, Surah Al-Furqan, highlights characteristics of Ibadur Rahman. وعباد الرحمن الذين يمشون على الأرض هونا أو هونا وإذا خاطبهم الجاهلون قالوا سلاما. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala says, do you consider yourself to be one of the servants of the merciful? You need to display and exhibit characteristics. You need to show signs. The final ayah, which is chapter 25, verse number 74. This ayah highlights the relationship the human being should have when it comes to marriage. And it's an ayah of great importance because we have been recommended by our ulama to recite this ayah if we are looking to get married. to recite this ayah if we are already married for a happy marriage, and to recite this ayah if we have children or we want children. What is this ayah in the Holy Quran? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَالَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. The Ibadur Rahman, the servants of the All-Merciful, are the ones who recite the following. They say, O our Lord, grant us from our spouses and our children and descendants those that bring us coolness of the eyes, apple of the eyes, and make us the leaders of the God-wary. Amir al-Mu'mineen wa Imam al-Muttaqeen Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi is narrated to have said, this is one of the most common du'as he used to recite. He loved this du'a from the Holy Quran. It was a du'a that he would utter and encourage others to utter. How is this verse important to you and I today? Please focus on the examination of this ayah before we look at practical reasons why conflicts happen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that those who say, Ya Allah, grant us, hab lana. In Arabic, hab is not like ata, to give. Hab is different to gifts, hadiyah. When you and I give someone something, it is usually because we have to reply or give them something in return for something that they have done to us, yes? If they've been kind to us, if they've already gifted us something. Hab in Arabic means when you give something to someone, they do not necessarily deserve it, but you give it to them. Allah is saying, we supplicate to Him and say, Ya Allah, we may not be deserving of this, but give it to us. Hab lana. Now, min azwajina wa dhurriyatina. From our spouse, meaning husband or wife, depending who's reciting, and our children, yes? No. Dhurriyatina in Quran is not awladina. Please understand Arabic. Dhurriyatina means our descendants. Allah is saying, when you get married, don't think about your family. You're building an institution for thousands of years. Build it properly. Meaning what? Don't think when you look for a wife or you look for a husband, you want a good father for your children or a good wife for your children. No doubt. Think about generations. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says, you are planting the seeds for many, many thousands of people that will come after you, who will follow your line, who will continue, who will be your progeny. This is the planning Islam gives you and I. Says, build this holy institution, marriage, so that your line continues to be righteous, so that you get thawab and you continuously are blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why the Quran says, وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا. Now, in Arabic, when a human being, what? Cries. Normally, tears are of two kinds. Either they are sad or happiness. Do you agree? Sad tears are known as what? Hot tears. Happy tears are known as cold tears. What do you mean? If somebody, for example, is departing, leaving, and we are bidding farewell to them, if a mother is bidding farewell to her son or daughter, they are sad. So the tears is normally hot tears. But when they come back and the mother, for example, is delighted and she cries, they are cool tears. In Arabic, when the Arabs used to be in the desert, there used to be sandstorms. And they used to hide in caves in order to protect from these storms. When they hide in caves, they say, I have now qurratu ayn. My eyes are cool and are protected from the storm. Look at this. Please understand this. This is a gem of an ayah, and the Quran is a treasure. Quran says, when you say, Ya Allah, I want a spouse and children that give me coolness of the eye, because they will protect me from the storm outside. Because at home, it gives me tranquility, it gives me happiness, it gives me a sense of relief from all the pressures outside. all the difficulties outside. Qurratu a'yun, number one. Number two, has Qurratu a'yun been used in the Quran or not? Yes, it has. Where Musa, ala nabiyina wa ala alihi wa alayhi afdal salatu wassalam, his mother, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we returned Musa to his mother, what does it say? كَيْ تَقَرَّ عَيْنُهَا وَلَا تَحْزَنْ. It is because when that child was returned to the mother, she was so delighted. Her eyes was cool with happiness, number one. Number two, Asiya, salamullahi alayha, is also referred to as somebody who asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Qurratu a'yun, yes, in paradise. Because there is a wonderful verse that highlights what this whole Qurratu a'yun is. If you understand this, then you appreciate the ethos, the philosophy, the background of why marriage is there in the first place. Allah tabarak wa ta'ala says, فَلَا تَعْلَمُ نَفْسٌ مَا أُخْفِيَ لَهُم مِّن قُرَّةِ أَعْيُنٍ. Allah says in Jannah, you would not know what Allah, now you would not know what Allah has given you, because it will result in qurratu a'yun. Same word as the one that is used in the verse of marriage. What does this mean? Allah tabarak wa ta'ala says, sort out your marriage, Jannah is for you. This qurratu a'yun, you are supplicated to Allah, I want a spouse and I want descendants and children that grant me qurratu a'yun. Then the Quran says, in Jannah you can't imagine what Allah will give you. But I can tell you this, it will give you qurratu a'yun. And therefore the recognition arises that when it comes to the religion of Islam, the intentions, the philosophy, the background, the whole ethos of marriage is to obtain paradise together, is to attain Jannah together, is to achieve perfection together, is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala together. And hence, when it comes to conflicts, we begin to somehow piece this puzzle. Somebody asked the question, very well, once I've understood the background behind the religion of Islam's emphasis on marriage, I ask the question, why do conflicts happen in the first place? No doubt, if we were to ask the mu'mineen here, why do married couples argue? Why? You might say because perhaps parents' interference, sometimes. You might say because of finances, sometimes. Some might say it's because of what? Different habits, sometimes. Some might say because of coronavirus. I tell you, one person said, after COVID-19, I've understood marriage better. I said, how? He said, because now I know what's the difference between lock up and lockdown. I said, what do you mean? He said, in lock up, in the police station, there is a way out. Yes, I can be let out. In lockdown, I'm stuck. Yes? In the idea that when it comes to reasons why conflicts happen, there are these superficial pointers that many people point. I would like to take you on a journey which is a bit deeper and requires your attention. Perhaps too much for our youngsters, but for others, there are deeper, more fundamental reasons why conflicts happen. And I've selected three main ones. I would like your attention because if you grasp them, you will begin to appreciate the background of why these challenges happen in a marital relationship. The first reason why couples fight, why there are conflicts, is the following: that throughout our lives, from a young age, we are exposed to certain trends, certain factors, certain elements in society or in our own households, which for the purposes of this discussion we call bags. Please imagine the following scenario. From a young age until we grow and get married, we pick up bags. What are these bags? These bags could be behaviors of our parents, could be behaviors that we were encountering at school or college or university. It could be trends and experiences we've gone through in our lives. We carry these bags, we learn them, and they develop into behavioral trends. They develop into ways in which we see how we should conduct ourselves. Somehow they become second nature. Yes? Let me give you some examples. There was a married couple who came and said, we have a problem. What was the problem? The wife is very organized. She's very structured. When they go on holiday, the wife wants to go to the airport in advance because she wants to make sure everything is ready. So she packs early. She wants to leave early in case there is traffic. And mashallah, in Dar es Salaam, you have plenty of that. Yes. She wants to ensure that she arrives in the airport and everything is fine. The husband is those who says, what's the point? We go there, sit in the airport, and we waste our time. It's okay, don't worry, everything will be fine. The wife stresses. She becomes anxious. She becomes angry. The husband is agitated because of his wife. What is the bag that the wife is carrying? Previously in her life, she may have missed a flight. Previously in her life, she may have had an experience that has driven her to understand or to come to conclusion that she behaves in such a way. Yes? When these bags in marriage are not discussed and communicated properly, imagine there's a door and the couple walk in together with these bags. The bags collide. When the bags collide, there is conflict. Another example. One brother said that when I was young, whenever somebody made a mistake, my father would come and humiliate him in front of our family members and say, it is all your fault. Admit it in front of everyone. He says, I learned that that is the way if somebody makes a mistake. When I got married, when there was a mistake that I made, yes, my wife would say, don't worry, it's fine. But when it's a mistake that she made, I made a big issue of it. I started to say, how? We must speak to people. We must say to your parents, you made this mistake. You have to what? You have to understand it's not a small error. She says, initially my wife was tolerant until she had enough. She said, you keep having a go at me. You keep telling me off. You keep exposing me in front of everyone. His bag was the behavior that he learned from his father on how to deal with mistakes or errors. Therefore, one important reason why conflicts happen is these past experiences, trends, behavioral characteristics that we may have picked up. It needs honest, truthful communication on why some people have these and how we can work together as a married couple to try and understand them so that we can practice what is known as emotional intelligence. Please understand this. It's a powerful tool today. If you have not understood emotional intelligence, it is not the objective of this discussion to go through it. Emotional intelligence is when I place myself in the head of someone else. How are they thinking? How are they feeling? Why are they feeling the way they are feeling? It is to remove what I am thinking and place myself in the shoes of someone else. I am emotionally intelligent to try and figure out why is the other person reacting in the way that they are. That's number one. Please understand this. The second reason why conflicts happen in marriage is because Allah Jalla wa Ala has created males and females differently. Mark these words. In a society that we live in around the world today that is trying to push for equality, Islam pushes for equity. You say, is this the same? It's not the same. Equality is to give everyone exactly the same thing. Yes? Equity is to see what every individual needs and what their capabilities and their shortcomings and to work around it to give them what they deserve. Let me give you an example. When you have someone who's really tall and someone who's really short and you have a very tall tree, you give both of them the same length of ladder. The tall one will be able to get to the tall tree, but the young one will not. The short one will not. This is equality. They both have the same ladder length, but one of them is short. Surely you need to give him a taller ladder in order to get to the same destination. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says, males are not superior to females, and females are not superior to males. Ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin untha. There is no superiority when it comes to gender. But they are not the same. Please understand this. What do you mean? Today there are so many scientific studies, so many behavioral experts who have analyzed the psychology of a male and the psychology of a female, and I've come forward with groundbreaking research. We have to understand it to avoid conflict in marriage. Somebody asked a question. You tell me I have to understand this. Is conflict in itself a bad thing? Some scientists today have said no, it is not necessarily that when we have conflicts in marriage we understand and are worried. Conflicts are what? Are symptoms of maybe a bigger problem. They may identify a bigger issue that needs solutions. However, we still need to be able to manage them rather than resolve them. Yes? Managing conflicts is the goal. Resolving is unlikely to take place because managing them would require some compromise, some form of sacrifice. Let's look at a few ways in which males and females are different. Please appreciate and understand that it is slightly technical, but it will be beneficial. Number one, males or females are different in terms of their needs. What do we mean? Today, there is an appreciation and understanding that what? That females require what? Require more love, empathy, understanding, and beauty. Yes? It is established that as far as females are concerned, they need to feel cherished. They need to feel loved. They need to feel somehow that the husband values them, respects them in the sense that they love them. Yes? And this is characterized in a number of ways. When a female is upset, she may not say that I am upset. Or when she has grievances or concerns, sometimes what the male does, what the husband does, is quietens her. You're making a big deal out of this. Have you been in similar situations? Where, for example, the wife is saying, I am really unhappy about this situation. The husband, instead of listening and being understanding and empathetic, says, why are you making a big deal? This is not a big matter. Move on. Because a male thinks differently to a female. The female needs to feel that the husband is empathetic of her worries, her concerns, her issue that she is going through. Her needs are different to the needs of the male. And unfortunately, sometimes this is completely dismissed. Why? Because males are solution orientated. Females are process orientated. I know these are technical, but understand this. What does it mean? As males, when somebody who is a friend of us, who is a male, comes to us and says, you know what, today I was driving and my car broke down. He calls us. The first thing I'm thinking is what? I'm going to help you. Do you need help? Is your car fixed? But a female, when she calls someone and says, you know, today I had a terrible day, my car broke down, a female friend would say to her, tell me more, how was it? She needs to communicate it. She needs to get it out. She needs to channel it. A male will not understand. A male will want to fix, quickly, fix job. A female needs to be listened to. I understand, it must have been hard, how difficult it was, tell me more about it. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has created us differently. Now you ask the question, what about the male? God help me if I don't mention this. Yes. What about the male? What does the male's needs? Yes, here there is a general understanding amongst what? Psychologists and behavioral experts. They come forward and say males crave respect and what? And obedience. In which way? Yes, please understand the following. They crave authority. There is a book, very interesting book, used to be called The Surrendered Wife. Then because of pressure, the author called Laura Doyle changed it to The Empowered Wife. Okay? What does she say? She says there are 6 principles that a wife needs to understand about the husband and his needs. Number 1, you as a wife need to relinquish control of your husband's life. Do not necessarily interfere excessively over things that he knows best about his life. Number 1. Number 2, respect his decisions in life. Number 3, take good self-care of yourself. Number 4, express gratitude and thankfulness to your husband. Number 5, express vulnerability and don't hesitate to show your feminine appreciation or side. And number 6, trust him when it comes to his finances. There is one school, like her, this particular author, and some others who believe that when a male obtains this from the wife, he feels empowered. He feels a sense of authority. Then he reciprocates this with much love towards the wife. Because he is getting his need. And if he understands her needs, he will be able to what? He will be able to fulfill it too. That's number one. Number two, the other issue that needs to be present is communication. The styles of communication of males and females are different. Today, scientific studies have shown that what? That when it comes to females, when they are in difficulty, they need to talk in detail to release the tension, to release what's within them. They express their thinking. Sometimes they think out aloud. It clears what is inside. Males, however, prefer to, when they are upset, to be left alone, to deal with the problem alone. And by the way, this may not apply for each and every individual. It may not be the case for everything, yes, for every single person. But there are general trends that are being studied and analyzed for you and I to maybe apply into our own lives. That's the first area, needs and communications. The second area is love. What do you mean? Just like how today we have wonderful languages like Kiswahili and Urdu and English and Arabic. If today I will sit here and speak to you in Japanese, you will not understand. Not that I know Japanese, by the way. Because the idea that is presented is love is spoken and demonstrated and given in different languages. Please understand this. What do you mean? There are couples who fight with each other constantly because they're not getting the love from the other. Whereas the husband is saying, I'm always giving her gifts, but she doesn't feel loved. Why? The wife is saying, I'm cooking for him, but he doesn't feel loved. Why? Because what the husband or the wife is giving is not love. It's their own way of understanding love. It is not what they each other expect. Please understand. They say, there is a man by the name of Gary Chapman. He says there are 5 love languages. 5 ways to express love. What are they? Number 1, quality time. There are those, either husband or wife, who prefer when there is uninterrupted quality time, no phones, no children, where they can spend time with each other. When this happens, they feel loved. When this doesn't happen, they feel unloved. Others, number 2, is what? Is words of affirmation. Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam comes forward and says, when it comes to the husband saying to his wife, I love you, this will not leave her heart forever, no doubt. It is the start. It does not mean you say it once in 30 years. Yes? The traditions point to the importance of the expression of love. For some people, husband or wife, it is more important if you say continuously words that praise the other, either in front of each other or before others. This is valuable for them. If this doesn't happen, they feel unloved. Number 3, physical touch. Sometimes the husband or the wife considers this to be the most important way love is presented. Number 4, it could be gifts. By the way, it is common for marital couples to have one of these actually more than the other. If you say to me, maybe all of them are important, it is likely that one of them is what? Is your preferred love language. Gifts may be one. Surprise each other with gifts. Don't just wait for example, what? For example, birthdays or anniversaries or Eid or special occasions. Surprise each other with gifts and you will see that what? If it is the love language of the other, it will truly cement and strengthen the marital relationship. But also at the same time, advice for our brothers, don't forget the birthdays. Number 5 is what? In addition to all this, it is acts of service. Allahu Akbar. These acts of service, our ladies, they are listening, they will love a lot. Why? Because Islam comes forward and says that the best family relationship, the best couple this earth has ever seen, مولى المتقين أمير المؤمنين قائد الغر المحجلين أسد الله علي and سيدة النساء فاطمة صلوات الله وسلامه عليهما. If you look at these 5 love languages, they were all demonstrated brilliantly into this household of marital success and prosperity. Wasn't Amir al-Mu'mineen sweeping the floor and sieving the pulses at home? When the Prophet of God saw him and praised him for doing household chores. Sometimes when the husband does these acts of service at home, it's an expression of what? It's an expression of love. That's why it's of the utmost importance that we look at the background of why these conflicts occur. Question arises, how do we solve these conflicts then? Let's say there is a marital fight or there is a disagreement. What are the tips that today we can learn, take home in order to somehow bring the marital couple together and bring management of these particular challenges? I have brought 10 and I will mention 10 quickly for you and I in order to benefit. Some will work for some people whilst others will be beneficial for others. Number 1, we have to understand the roots and the pattern of why certain conflicts and disagreements happen. Why? For example, if there is a fight always because, for example, the children are being taken late to school, or a certain act that one of them is expecting from the other is not happening, and it's continuously reoccurring, we have to identify the trigger factor for the fight. Why is this happening? Yes, this is of the utmost importance. Number 2, please understand this point, very critical. Number 2, you have to say what you mean, but don't say it mean. The way we communicate when there is a conflict is key. There is what is known as the I and the you methodology. What does this mean? Sometimes when there is a disagreement, we look at the other and say, you have never bought me anything. You disappoint me. You anger me. Yes? Usually in conflict management, these are recipes for disaster. Because what the other person then does becomes defensive. Responds in a way to try and protect themselves. We are encouraged to use the I, but in a respectful manner. I am disappointed. I would like to understand you better, for example. So, instead of you saying, you don't love me, in an argument, you could say, I don't feel loved. Look at the difference. Instead of saying, you're not listening to me, you could say, I don't feel listened to. Look at the difference. Because when it comes to these conflicts, we are told Shaitan is the third waiting, is smiling. There is a narration that says, Shaitan celebrates and is joyful when a couple fight. Because Shaitan doesn't want happy, successful marital relationships. Wants them fully, what? In fire, raging, breaking down. God forbid, resulting in divorces. And sadly we see rising cases sometimes in certain communities. Yes? If we learn to express through the I in a respectful manner, this may be also helpful. Number 3, the tip, the third, when it comes to dealing with conflicts, and it's something perhaps we don't do enough, and that is to listen and listen and listen. What do we mean? Sometimes when there are some fights going on or disagreements, we don't listen to understand. We listen to reply. Imagine in a scenario, in a particular, disagreement or conflict that is happening, when the wife, for example, is saying that today you said something that upset me, you are not thinking maybe she's right. You're thinking, how can I reply back, because it's a match scoring. I want to come out as the one who's the winner in this battle. We see it as a battle, isn't it? Yes? The idea that emerges is what? Is that we need to use this model of listening, what is known as listening time. Please understand this tool. You allow the other to speak for 3 minutes without interruption. Try it. Hold yourself back. You have this great temptation to answer back. don't say a word. But also try to be empathetic and understand where they've come from. Listen to appreciate and understand rather than listen to reply. Let me explain to you a scenario. Please understand this scenario so that it becomes practical. Yes? Imagine that the husband is watching a football game. MashaAllah. For example, watching the greatest, the best football team in the world, Liverpool, with its players Sadio Mane and Mo Salah playing. Yes, Muslim players. He watches them. All of a sudden the wife enters and says, look at the mess you have created with the food and everything on the table. Yes? Here there are three ways to deal with this. Two are wrong, one is right. One way is called turning against. Turning against means the husband looks at the wife and says, why do you always pick at me when I'm watching football? You should not disturb me. This is turning against, meaning taking this conflict and returning it back against the person. Then there is one that is called turning away. I will do it later, don't worry. That's turning away from the problem. Then there is the third one, which in marriage is called collaboration, win-win. It is turning towards. When you appreciate that the wife is what? Is concerned. You say, I am sorry, or I understand. I will make sure that it is done at the earliest opportunity, for example, half time. Yes? This is turning towards. It is one way of practicing listening to understand, no doubt. Yes? Number 4, when we are in a conflict, let's not forget, we are mu'mineen mu'minat. We believe in Allah. Allah is watching us. Let's do what is necessary to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And let's speak to Him also. Meaning what? Meaning crush the ego. Don't think it's a winning game, because ultimately you want Allah to be pleased with you. We're not like others who don't believe in Allah and want to make sure that we come out on top. What is important is the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 5, Islamic teachings tell us in conflicts, cool down, meaning perform wudu, recite Quran. Think that you are in a beautiful place like Karbala or Najaf or with the Ahl al-Bayt. If you're standing, sit down. If you're sitting down, stand up. Number 6, write down good things about the other. Try it. It's very hard when you're angry with each other. Just step aside and have some protocols, by the way, that you will not name call each other. You will not step outside the boundaries. You will not interrupt each other. One exercise is to move away and start to think of good things the other person has. You will find, no doubt. You start good things that will enable you to cool down and to see the good side as well. Sometimes in a rage, sometimes in anger, we all want to bring the other person down. All of a sudden, they are not our husband and wife, they are our enemy. So this is a good practice. Number 7, very important. To apologize, there are also ways to do this. Because in traditions, Islamic teachings, we are told that apology is empowerment. Apology is not weakness. Apology is when you recognize your own shortcomings. When you do it for the sake of Allah, trust that this will make you a better human being. But there are different ways to apologize. Please understand. There are 5 ways to apologize. I understand maybe this is a lot of information, but hopefully you can take from it that which is beneficial for you. How do we apologize to each other in a marital relationship, and can be used outside marriage as well? Number 1 is to express regret. I am sorry. Clearly. Sometimes this I am sorry is very hard, especially for some of our brothers. Yes? They don't want to say I am sorry. I don't know why. They feel it's above them to express regret for what has happened. Incidentally, what we described earlier about communication and what this book entailed is not in any shape or form condoning behavior such as what violence or abuse, or when people are drunkard, God forbid, or anything like that. Yes, when it came to mail and communication. The first way is to express regret. Number 1. Number 2 is to take responsibility. Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad Al-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi says in a narration, take responsibility, because if you don't, no one will. take responsibility for your actions. By taking responsibility, what do you say? You say, I am wrong. Number 3 is to promise to make amends. How can I make this up for you? Number 4 is to ask for forgiveness. Will you forgive me? And number 5 is to assure that this will not happen again, that this will not be repeated. Can you see there are 5 different ways to express? Sometimes you need a mixture of them. Sometimes it's a combination of them, yes? But it is of the utmost importance that this actually what takes place. When we come to other ways to deal with this, we have to have husnul dhann. We have to think good of the other, not to think bad of the other. Why? Because many a times we don't give each other an opportunity. We don't give each other a chance to what? To explain themselves. And all of a sudden we've become judgmental in the way that people deal with each other. That is why a key prerequisite for a successful dealing with conflict management is what? Is for the husband and wife to be looking at great examples, to be understanding that it is a norm in marital relationship. But when we look at individuals in history who are successful in dealing with hardship and challenges, and to believe and to be positive and not to walk away at the first instance where there are what? Where there are challenges, where there are unfortunately breakdowns in communication. But when this happens, question that some people have is, shall we go to our parents? And should our parents intervene? Why? Because I've dealt with a number of cases where before they come to the alim, or for example the jama'at level, where like this blessed jama'at has a group of mu'mineen, mu'minat who are mediators, usually the parents are involved. Is it recommended where the parents are involved? Most definitely no. Why, you might say? Why not? Should not the parents advise? It is unlikely that the parents would give impartial advice. It is unlikely that they would remain unbiased. It is unlikely where they would be able to solve the problem for both. Why? Because sometimes it could make the situation worse. It could add fuel to fire. And that is why it is best to go to impartial individuals if the conflict cannot be resolved between the two. If this disagreements cannot be somehow sorted out, it is best to go to individuals like alims, like committees, whereby they are able to listen to both sides and present and offer solutions. When you look at the 10th of Muharram, no doubt there are so many aspects that you and I can benefit from, can learn from, can speak to our non-Muslims about. And one of them is family values. Because I tell you, my dear sisters and brothers, today's world is filled with challenges regarding families. Today, the definition of a family is even being changed. It always used to be a male and a female under the institution of marriage. That today some of our youth have many grievances or challenges when it comes to marital setups. We need to look at these wonderful examples that have been presented to us, these universal values and principles from the 10th of Muharram that are truly monumental and can act as inspiration for our own lives, for our own marriages. You look at what? You look at, for example, Zuhair ibn al-Qayn and his wife. There are narrations that point to Zuhair being hesitant to join the army of Abdullah. This narration is weak. Zuhair ibn al-Qayn was not a Uthmani. Zuhair ibn al-Qayn was a Muwali from day one. Yes, and I have an entire lecture that I show evidence that this narration that he didn't want to join and his wife says to him, go and join, is not really acceptable. However, his wife still played an important role in ensuring that what? In ensuring that he stands firm. Because the narrations tell us that she was there with Ali Muhammad. She was there supporting the families. She was there as a great backbone for other women, no doubt. Yes. You have, for example, this man by the name of Wahab al-Kalbi, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhi. Some narrations point to him being a Christian, then becoming a Muslim. He had just recently got married. And when an individual just recently gets married, often they wish to spend time together. Often they wish to enjoy each other's company. Yes, it is the sweetest of the times. But this man would stand brave and courageous on the 10th of Muharram, wishing to fight and sacrifice for the sake of Allah, defending Rasulullah and the Quran and the holy Ahl al-Bayt. Yet his wife was hesitant at the beginning. She would say to him, don't leave me. But his mother would say, go, make me proud before Fatima. When he would emerge to the battlefield, narrations tell us he fought. He fought until he came back. When he came back, he saw his wife in a different way. His wife said to him, "Oh Wahab, make me proud. Go and fight and sacrifice your life." He saw a complete transformation in his wife. Allahu Akbar. Any man or woman would ask, what happened? Why are you now a different person? She said, I heard Aba Abdullah Al-Hussain cry out, Ala hal min nasirin yansuruna. Ala hal min mughithin yughithuna. Ala hal min dhabbin yadhubbu an harami Rasulillah. Is there anyone to protect the sanctity of the Holy Prophet's family? Is there anyone who will protect the family of Rasulullah? At that moment she said, my heart broke. I cannot any longer tolerate and bear this pain of Hussein being alone. Go and fight. And no doubt Wahab attained Shahada. I tell you, when it comes to families in Karbala, there is one group of individuals who demonstrated the greatest forms of courage, altruism and dedication. And that is the family of Hussein himself. And on the top of this list is his sister Zainab. And what should we say about Zainab al-Kubra? Allahu Akbar. Amir al-Mu'mineen, in his moments before he reached the house when he was struck, we are told he is being carried because his head is dripping with blood. He says to those carrying him, do not hold me. I wish to enter the house uncarried because I do not want Zainab to see me in this state. I say to him, Mawla Ali, you don't want Zainab to see you in this state. Come to Karbala and see what Zainab saw. Come and see the masa'ib of what Zainab witnessed. Sayyida Zainab and her husband Abdullah ibn Ja'far were a great couple, no doubt. Because a great couple produces great children. A wonderful couple brings rise to sacrificial, devout, loyal boys. But Sayyida Zainab's masa'ib did not begin on the 10th of Muharram when she had to bid farewell to Awn and Muhammad. I tell you, was it when she saw her mother crushed between the wall and the door? Was it when she saw her father's head dripping with blood? Was it when she saw Hassan al-Mujtaba vomiting his liver? Was it when she saw the body of Ali al-Akbar torn into pieces? Oh Zainab, was it when you saw Abbas, his eyes penetrated by an arrow? Oh Zainab, the musibah, was it when you saw Qasim's head split into two? You cried for Ali al-Akbar, you cried for Qasim, you cried for Abbas, you cried for that baby with the arrow in his throat, but it was two you never cried for. Oh Zainab, al-Masa'ib, Awn and Muhammad. Yes, the mother's love is so immense, but she would not shed a tear for her sons. On the 10th of Muharram, it was time for these brave sons of Ali to emerge, to come forward and fight. Some narrations say that they stood before their uncle Aba Abdullah. Imam Hussain looked at them. He says, you are the apple of my eyes. How can I let you go and fight? How can I let you go? They said, we beg you, oh uncle. Our mother Zainab has sent us. Allow us to fight. At that moment, the poet says, it is as if Zainab looks at Hussein and says, oh Hussein, don't deprive me of being a mother that mourns for her children. All these mothers around me have given their children. I wish to give something for you, Ya Aba Abdullah. The poet says, it's as if Hussein says, oh Zainab, you have given so much. How can you lose your own and Muhammad? They emerge like lions of God to the battlefield. They fight so valiantly, so courageously. They kill enemies until they surrounded. When Aun and Muhammad are struck, they fall onto the ground. Allahu Akbar, it is Imam Al-Hussain who rushes towards them. Do you know what they said to Imam Al-Hussain? Narration says, Aun and Muhammad looked at their uncle. Amma, Ya Aba Abdullah, have we fulfilled what we have promised? Imam says, of course you have. One narration says, they said, oh Aba Abdullah, send our salam to our mother Zainab and tell her we never had any water. We never drank any of the water. Allahu Akbar. And so Sayyida does not shed a tear, either in Karbala or in Kufa or in Sham or on the way back in Karbala. Allahu Akbar, for her sons Aun and Muhammad, until she reaches Medina. She enters the house in Medina. She goes to the room of Aun and Muhammad in Medina. She sits next to the beds of Aun and Muhammad. Now she begins to cry. Now she begins to mourn. Oh Aun and Muhammad, where are you? Oh Aun and Muhammad, I couldn't cry for you. Oh Aun and Muhammad, I miss you. Allahu Akbar. But there is a daughter of Imam Al-Hussain who is not with Zainab in Karbala. She was there in Medina. She was ill. Her name is Fatima. It's as if she came to her auntie Zainab. She says, Auntie Zainab, where is Ali al-Akbar? Where is Qasim? Where are Aun and Muhammad? But what would Zainab say? Yes, they are martyred in Karbala. The poet says, but this young daughter of Hussein stands up and says, I beg you, Auntie Zainab, if all these are shuhada, they're shuhada, I mourn for them. But tell me, why can I not see my sister? Why cannot see my Sakina? Oh daughter of Hussein, your sister, I left her in Sham. Sakina is all alone in Sham. Ya Hussein.